It is so true that no matter what the context of the relationship, it's easy to get to that point of conflict where you just want to give a piece of yourself to somebody. And so we're talking about making sure, are we giving the right piece? Are we, when we give something to somebody of ourselves, what is it? Particularly, we're post-election now, and so conversations are happening. You're about to go to Thanksgiving dinner with somebody, and, don't raise your hand, but I'm willing to bet most of you have somebody that's coming to your house, or you're going to somebody's house that has a different political view, and that the opportunity there to give them a piece of you is right there. Well, what we want to do is make sure that we don't walk into those moments unprepared, that we don't go into our Darwinistic responses of fight or flight and respond in the wrong kind of way, but rather we have prepared ourselves to give the right piece to another person, to begin to serve up something into their lives that will edify the relationship, even if it's difficult. Have you ever been invited over somebody's house and been surprised by the food being so good? I mean, I know you're like, well, that's really rude. It's like, no, I've gone to people's houses and, and excused myself to the bathroom, with a piece of mutton or something, and just kind of like you got to get rid of it or something. But have you ever been invited to a house where it starts this way? There's a preamble. Hey, I'd love you to come on over. I'm going to fix meatballs. Got to be honest with you, I've never cooked them before. And you're kind of like, no, the experimental meatball encounter. And so because you love the person or because you just, want to honor the invite, you go anyway, and the plate comes out and you just didn't know meatballs could be shaped that way, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. And, but then you eat it and you're beginning to go, Mamma mia, that's a spice of meatball, You say, well, you can't do that. It's like, yes, I'm Italian, I can do that. It's a spicy meatball. And then all of a sudden you're eating the meatball and you're willing to elevate it to a height that this is good as my mama's. This meatball is as good, and the sauce is absolutely delicious. And you're totally surprised by it. There's a restaurant in town that I personally am surprised by. It's called Southside 17. I am not getting a free t-shirt or anything from this. A free meal would be nice if they're listening. But Southside 17, let me just tell you right up front. It's a dark bar with a lot of TVs and over-lacquered tables that are usually sticky from the night before. Okay, and you're like, what? I was like, no. I'm okay with places like that. It's got a real man vibe in there. You're ready to watch sports. You've got a little karaoke section, got a big bar, a lot of community happening around that bar. And so, you may go there and like my wife, we went there and she's like, oh, really? Isn't there someplace else you could have taken us? And it's like, this is date night, It's like, this is your date night location until the food was served. See, one of the things I do when I go to a restaurant, I will try, depending on what kind of cuisine it is, I will try certain things. She crab soup is one of the things that I try. And Reubens, I like to keep it Jewish, in honor of the Lord. So I like a good Reuben. And I've eaten them from all the way up from Boston, New York, and Jersey, Philly, all the way down. And whenever I go to a restaurant and I don't know what to get a Reuben. Well, I tell you, I had their Reuben, and I was really surprised. It had sauerkraut on it, which you normally get, and a lot of people pull out on the sauerkraut. They don't want to go there, so they put coleslaw on it. What is that? What kind of craziness is that? And so the French fries are freshly made. They're crisp. They're hot when they come to the table. Great. The steak bites are amazing. And the service is perfect. And so it's kind of one of those restaurants where you go into and you're surprised how good the food is. And what we're doing here and talking about this idea of a piece of me is surprising people with the response that they get from you. That I really didn't think I was going to get that that whatever the occasion is, that you surprise them with something good that comes out of your life, that comes out of your mouth, that's communicated through your life. So today we're going to be talking about talking and interacting and our response to tough people in our lives. Tough people in our lives. We all have them. They may be somebody that we know when we see them and we walk up. They walk up to us. We know that they're the kind of person that, it's going to be tough. We know that they may be the person that we're going to sit at Thanksgiving dinner across from. And that's them, and there they are, and here comes, Jimmy and his girlfriend, and, they're going to come in, and they're going to do all their stuff that they do and all the drama, and you kind of know that's coming, and I just picked Jimmy out of the hat, so if you're a Jimmy here, I didn't mean to offend you, but you know what I'm saying. It may be a new person that you met in the store that you've got to navigate them, or you may discover today that you are the tough person to deal with. I'm just spitballing here. Maybe there's somebody here that you're the tough person to interact with. So we're going to see Jesus respond in an awkward moment. This is really an awkward moment in the Bible. This is one of these stories that are really, really different. But one of the things that we're going to learn about is what I'm calling nuance or nuisance. Nuance or nuisance. See, a lot of times we see the conversations that we may have with people or certain kinds of people that we have labeled as a nuisance. Try not to smile, but do you know somebody in your life that you consider a nuisance? I think all of us someplace have somebody that when we see them coming, we have already labeled them as a nuisance in our lives. In this story, we're going to see Jesus demonstrate an understanding of something else, nuance in the conversation, in the relationship. While other people may be observing it as a nuisance, he's working through this realm of nuance. So let me read you the story. I really want you to just kind of visualize it. I'm not even putting the text up there. We'll walk through it together later, but I want you to just visualize this story as I read to you, because it is perplexing, it is weird, and you could come out of this thinking Jesus is either sexist, he's a jerk, or he's a racist. I mean, you could come out of it this way. Matter of fact, if you go on TikTok on this story, you will hear somebody that has misinterpreted this story and has mislabeled Jesus in it. But what we're going to learn is how he moves through this thing. We'll learn more about the word nuance in the relationship. All right, let me read it to you. Jesus went away from Jerusalem and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. And when he entered a house, he wanted no one to know of it, yet he could not escape notice. And a Canaanite woman from the region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples kept imploring him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us." But he answered and said, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came up and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not good to take the children's bread and to throw it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed at once. Weird, right? I mean, what the heck, Jesus? I mean, what kind of conversation is this? What is this all about? Well, we're going to find out there's a lot of nuance in the story, just as there are in your relationships. What's nuance? It's a subtle difference in shade or meaning or expression or in sound. And we all have nuance. We all kind of say things differently. We mean things differently. We use words differently. We have different experiences that we speak out of. We have nuances. They're like little niches that we operate in. And this story is loaded with them. And a nuance would be like somebody says something to you and you're trying to figure out, yeah, they said they liked me. And it's like, really? You're upset about it? I don't know what they meant. I really don't know what they meant. I think he was flirting with me. It's like, really? I mean, what made you think that? I don't know. I'm just not sure. And it's like, well, wait a minute. What are we doing in that situation? Where we can use the same words, same ideas, and communicate, but I don't really know what you mean or what's going on in this story. And all of us operate out of nuance. I operate out of a born in Boston nuance. I operate out of an A-type personality nuance. I operate out of an ADD nuance. I operate out of being a man. I operate out of being white. I operate all these things, my life experiences, all kind of add together. And you have got to figure out what I mean. You got to figure out what I'm about. And I love one woman who perfectly described me, and I hold on to this as one of the greatest compliments that I've ever received about my teaching style. She said, you are compassionate, you are truthful, and you are borderline inappropriate. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what I was shooting for, you know? And it's like, what? It's like, no, most of the people that are here that have been coming to Crosstown for a while, they know I don't want to hurt them. They know that I don't want to control them. They know that I'm not trying to get in their pocket or to their wallet or anything like that. They know that's not about, but they've had to navigate the nuance of my personality to arrive at that place. Well, that's what Jesus is doing. Jesus in the story, you're going to see he's going to move in, speak in the nuance of the story. Otherwise, if you read this story just the way it is, Jesus looks like, at a minimum, he looks like a jerk. So let's take a look when we discover that just the opposite is going on. Jesus went away from Jerusalem and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. So Jesus is leaving Jerusalem after what appears to be a conflict-rich interaction with the Jewish religious leaders. All right, so Jerusalem is the hub, the center of what God is doing. He's picked this location, this nation, these people, this tribal country and nation that started with Abraham, and God is working with this group of people, and Jerusalem represents that. Well, Jesus kind of gets fed up, he gets tired, gets wore out, and so he goes to this area outside of Israel. So he's outside his, if it was a hockey game, he's off the ice, all right? I mean, so just visualize it that way. He is off the ice. He's not in the realm of where he is. His mission is initially targeted. Most of the people that he's going to run into are non-Jewish. Now, when he entered a house, he wanted no one to know of it, yet he could not escape notice. It is very possible we could say, well, he was tired and he wanted to get rest. I'd just go in there like a back room with a rocking chair and a Bud Light and just sit there and just kind of chill out, dim the lights, and just relax. I don't think that's what he was doing, but I'm just kind of like, in case you've ever been in that kind of experience where I just want to be left alone. But for Jesus, when we find out that he's exhausted or exasperated or kind of tired, we find in the Bible that he tends to go to garden spaces. He tends not to lock himself in his room. So I don't think that's the right interpretation. He tends to go into prayer as opposed to sit in exasperation. So when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Why does he want to remain unnoticed? So what am I doing right now? Reading this story, I'm trying to discover the nuance of Jesus. I mean, because that's what we all do. That's why we got scriptures. That's why Jesus became flesh. Because we looked at the Old Testament and we're kind of like walking away like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Like, what's up here? And so Jesus becomes flesh, so to explain the nuances, to reveal and let us understand it, to touch and to feel and to hear, what is it that God means? What does God want? And so when I'm reading the story, I'm kind of going through nuance. I'm trying to think about, okay, what would motivate him? And so I know things about Jesus, so I can kind of begin to discover. And this is kind of like what I've come up with. It's the fact that he's just left Jerusalem with a lot of conflict. Jesus has to be very careful at this point, leaving not only Jerusalem but Israel, that he does not establish a new epic center. That, screw you, I'm going to do it over here. Okay? I mean, because the whole narrative that Jesus is a part of is the one about Abraham. That God promised to Abraham that all nations shall be blessed through your seed. That all of the nations are going to be blessed, but it's going to be in the context of it having an epic center of Abraham, which is Jerusalem, which is Israel. And so if Jesus begins to do things outside of Israel, it's really easy for this narrative to get caught up and run a different direction. He's got to manage it. He's got to stay in the narrative. See, he could start a lot of unmanaged fires. You know, Smokey the Bear. You know, when you light a fire, and then there's those ways that you put those. Remember those commercials? Anybody old enough to remember the Smokey commercials? Yeah. So you don't leave a fire unattended. There's a proper way to put it out and all. And so let's say he goes into Tyre and this pagan city, and he begins to do miracles. And then he's like, okay, I got to go now. Well, and then he goes over here and he goes into Sidon and he does miracles, and then he goes away and leaves it. Well, we've now got two fires that nobody's attending. There's no scriptures. There's no tethering. This is not tethered to a bigger story. This one over here is not tethered to a bigger story. There's no disciples. There's no plan for growth. There's no continuity of story. So what would happen is all of a sudden mythology would appear. It's like, okay, there's a fire burning. How did it happen? Well, I was there and I saw this and I did this and this is what happened here. And they could mess the story up. So Jesus has got to be very careful about establishing fires that are not tethered to the story of Abraham. He's operating out of a nuance, even Jesus, a Jewish nuance and a Messiah nuance. He's operating out of that. So the story continues. And a Canaanite woman from the region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." So this woman is outside of Israel. She's outside of Jewish culture. She's called in another gospel a Syro-Phoenician woman. Basically, there is nothing about her that is tethered to Abraham. She is outside of the story. And the gospel wants us to be aware of that. And she is aware of that. The woman, she cries out to Jesus and calls him the Son of David. See, she understands the nuance of the story. We're sitting here in the 21st century as highly enlightened Americans, and we think we should control the narrative of all people on the planet because we think they should be so sensitive to our 21st century nuances, and so therefore this story in the Bible is totally inappropriate. It's like they're operating with a different nuance here. And so she understands the nuance, and she calls him Son of David. The story continues. But he did not answer her a word. So how are you going to interpret that? How rude. How stinking rude. That this woman is calling out for help from Jesus, and Jesus ignores her. It didn't say that. You added that. We added that. He just didn't answer her a word. And it's like, well, that's a whole different thing. Just not answering doesn't mean that he's being rude or ignoring her. What we're going to see is that he's not ignoring her at all. He's just leaving space for more to be said. Wouldn't that be a good gift that you could give to another human being? Instead of giving your quick answer about what you think about politics or religion or another person's behavior, if when they shout something out to you, that you give them a gift of not saying a word. Why would you not say a word? It's because you want them to reveal themselves more. There's nuance in play here. It's like, what does she want? What's really going on here? And so Jesus, instead of responding at the Thanksgiving table and somebody says something about Trump or something about Harris and then going off about it, slamming the turkey leg on the table, God forbid that a turkey leg would be treated such. But then pushing it, saying, I can't stand you people, and walking away. Jesus just is quiet. How about giving the gift of just shutting up? Okay? And that includes Facebook. That's especially Facebook. Do you ever get this, like, you'll see like a thread of comments on Facebook, a post, and then there's these outlandish things. And, and I'll see them because I'm a 13-year-old girl, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm very sensitive about what happens on Facebook. And so I'm going through it all, and I just, I'll see somebody will say something, and, it'll make me angry. And I'm just like, dishes across the table, kicking the dog, telling the children to get out of the house, getting angry. And then I get my keyboard, because it's like this big because I can't see anymore. And it's like click, 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 click. And then someplace along the line, God will be like, really? Do they need an answer? Delete, 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 and it's like they don't need an answer. It's like, do you know what's really motivating the person to say this? Or to vote that way, or to live that way, or do you know everything about them? No. So you have not discovered their nuance, but you're ready to give them an answer. Yeah. That's why the Bible says, be prepared to know how to answer all men. Be ready to give an answer. Meaning not only the content, the data of that answer, but the way that answer is supposed to be communicated in the nuance of the other person. It's like, wow. So Jesus decides that something more needs to be said in this space. And he doesn't answer, but that does not mean he's ignoring. I'll tell you what, my wife loves it when I shut up and listen. I mean, it's like the gift. You know those Lexus commercials where they have those cars, like $90,000 car with a bow on it, and they come out, and it's like, when I shut up, Susan puts a bow on me. She's just like, oh man, this is amazing. And if I will just listen. But we would misinterpret that in this story. And Jesus came and implored him, saying, send her away because she keeps shouting at us. Isn't it incredible? The undisciplined person always fills the silence with something stupid. They're going to be sitting at your table too. Somebody's going to say something and you didn't answer because you want to understand more, but somebody else is going to interject on your behalf. And it's like, chill, man. But I love the way the disciples answer. The disciples are annoyed by her and they want her to be shoved aside. They have labeled her a nuisance. This is serious. She's begging for help. Now, here's the thing about it. You can't always control what that beg sounds like. When somebody's hurting, you can't control how they hurt or how they say that they're hurt. We want to why don't you just come up? Why didn't you just call me? We could have sat down and we could have a private conversation. No, sometimes hurt is like when you hit your thumb with a hammer. It is loud and it is out there. It's interesting. It says that she kept employing and shouting at them. The word shouting in the Greek language, it's a really interesting word. It's what's called an onomatopoeia. It's a word that is not a word by itself, but it's a word that's associated with the sound. So it's the word, krazo. And krazo, in its original meaning, is the sound of a crow. It's the sound that a crow makes. And they turned it into a word. So she's yelling out, and it's loud, and it may be offensive, and it may be guttural, and it may be visceral, and her pain is real, and all the disciples can hear is the crow, because that's all they're listening to. But Jesus is discovering the woman in the middle of this story. But they're like, tell her to shut up. And I don't know why they thought they could do that, whether it was normal cultural response, maybe it was because she was a woman, maybe because she was a shouter, or maybe just because she was someone with bad timing. But Jesus doesn't let the disciples to determine how he will respond to her. I think that's really important. See, a lot of us will not only not know what to do in the moment, we will borrow our response from CNN. We will borrow our response from Fox News. We will borrow our response to what other guys or other gals or what other people are saying. We will borrow our response. And so they're trying to say, no, one of those Democrats gets in your face, one of those Republicans, anybody that voted for Trump, whatever. It's like, this way you got to put them in their place. You got to get it. It's like, he's not even listening to them. If there's anybody being ignored in this story, it is the disciples. He is ignoring them. Matter of fact, they are the nuisance in the story. So much so that Jesus doesn't even listen to them at all. So let me ask you, think about your responses, the way that you respond to things. Are you operating in a transcript that somebody else wrote? I mean, are you responding the way that your girlfriends told you should respond to your husband? Seriously, when you think about how you respond, do you really know the information? Do you know what they really believe? Do you know what's really going on? Do you know what they really stand for? Do we? And most people don't know. We took our script from somebody else, some YouTuber, some TikToker who had a really good point to make, and we took that transcript and we made it ours, and we don't even know anything about the facts of it. Why? Because we never actually listened to the speech. We never listened to the heart. We never actually shut up long enough to hear. But Jesus doesn't let the disciples to determine that, because shoving her aside was not his intention, nor was silencing her his intention. Matter of fact, he answers, after being quiet and after the disciples broke the silence, he says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the woman. Not only that, he's answering the woman's inquiry. So he was listening, he was paying attention. And he's also sidestepping the other person at the Thanksgiving table that's trying to just stir up crap. He's like, I ain't listening to that. And he's like, I'm getting back to this meaningful conversation. But look, he responds and echoes the narrative idea again. And he says to her, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He knows that she is aware of the narrative. You say, well, how does he know that? She called him Son of David. She is aware of the narrative. She knows his nuance, and she knows her relationship to that nuance. Her and him are fully aware of what's going on in this conversation. And so he's kind of like, you really, there's no expectation of me responding to you. He wants that to be known, that here is a person that I owe absolutely nothing to. I don't even owe her an answer. I don't owe her a healing. I don't owe her a miracle. And it's sometimes you got to know that, because if you're operating in entitlement, you will not discover the gift of the heart of the other person. Well, they ought to do it. They owe me. So, okay, Jesus doesn't want that relationship with this woman. Jesus wants to make it clear that you really don't have any claim for me to do anything for you, and you know that. But he also knows that she has more to say. So he rejects the idea that she's a nuisance. She ignores the noise. He ignores the noise, and he gives her space to reveal herself. If you've ever taken a picture of a slide in one of my sermons, that's it right there. Because if you could give that gift to everyone from now until the inauguration, let's give it a week after the inauguration. And let's give it a month after the inauguration. If you could give this gift to anybody in your family or in your relationships, this is a great gift on any subject. Just determining that this person's not a nuisance. Do you have people who are nuisances? Okay, you do, and I thank you, whoever said for being honest. We all have people. Okay, here's a perfect example. Have you ever been at Publix or Lowe's, because those are the only places I go? Have you ever been and all of a sudden come around with your cart and there they are? Have you ever at Publix been shopping and you came around with your cart and all of a sudden you're kind of like backing your cart up a little bit? Oh no, have you ever pretended you were shopping for things up on that aisle and you don't see them? You're like, oh yeah, I don't see them. That's how I've ended up at the counter a couple times with tampons in my basket, because that's where I was when all of a sudden I saw them and I turned and I grabbed the box and put it into my cart. You know, every one of us have people that we have labeled a nuisance. And that's just, it may be a family member, it may be somebody here at this church. You know what will cause us to thrive is if we move them out of the nuisance category and begin to deal with the nuance of the relationship. That's what Jesus is doing. He's giving her space to reveal herself. If we could do this for Thanksgiving and on Facebook and in all of our conversations, it would be amazing. But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered and said, it is not proper to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. But she said, yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from the master's table. Again, this reflects the order in the narrative in which Jesus and the woman are operating in. This is a cultural nuance. Whether you like it or not, she was from a group of people outside of the promises of God. God had not made any promises to these people. She's on the outside. This child-dog language was common and familiar to Jesus and to the woman. See, we're sitting here and we're offended by this. And I've listened to the preachers on TikTok talk about Jesus being misogynist and a racist because of this particular passage. As if Jesus and this woman are operating in the nuances of 21st over-liberated Americans. You know, I'll tell you the two people who are not offended in this story is Jesus and the woman. She doesn't say, how dare you, sir, call me a dog. She knows exactly the context of what. I've heard pastors try to clean this up by saying, well, this wasn't a wild dog. It was a domesticated family dog. I am like, how stupid can you possibly? The dog's a dog. I mean, if you're getting called a dog, do you feel like, well, at least I was a poodle, you know? I mean, but that's not what's going on here. It's like they know there's this nuance. And they're not pretending. We do this all the time. We pretend. We kind of want to eliminate the difficulty of it. This is notorious for guys like me that are white and walk up on a group of black guys. You know, we're talking in our regular white Anglo-Saxon Coburg dialect, you know. All right, Charlie. Hey, Charlie, how you doing? And then we all walk up on some black guys and all of a sudden, yo, bro, what's up? It's like, and you know what's crazy? Is the black guys are looking at you like what's wrong with you, man? Ain't you bro? But it's like, because we get nervous about the nuance, we try to fake it. You know, ladies, you experience this. When you're talking to a guy and all of a sudden, it's kind of like he starts talking to you like you're 12. Hey girl, you looking good today. You know, it's like, you're looking good today. Yeah, see, they get it. They're in my Nuance group. But seriously, you know? And it's like, because we get nervous around it. And we pretend and all. Jesus wasn't nervous about it, and this woman wasn't nervous about it. And you don't need to be nervous about it. What we need to do is establish that we're going to learn about the person in their nuances. You don't know where they're from. You don't know what their experiences are. You don't know what's going on in their lives. You don't know. It's like, well, yeah, but how am I supposed to know? Shut up. Listen. Discover. Give them space to reveal themselves. Then Jesus said to her, "Oh, woman." I didn't recognize this before. I'm just recognizing it now. "Oh, woman." Doesn't say, "Oh, doggy," does it? It doesn't say, he doesn't really think she's a dog. That was just the nuance of the culture. "Oh, woman." You know, and he speaks to her as a person. "Your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed at once. I think Jesus is amazing because of working through the nuance and not labeling her as a nuisance. The conversation goes beyond the request and now is at the place of the heart. And he's affirming her. I mean, he could have easily been annoyed and done the bibbidi-bobbidi-boo thing, you know? It's like, yes, whatever. Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, your daughter's healed, demon go. And he could have gone on his way. But that's not what he wanted. He didn't want to fulfill a request. He wanted to know a heart. He wanted to engage a person. So that meant he had to navigate nuance to get to the person. See, the woman just wanted a request. And Jesus, in the end, is giving her something so much better. He recognizes her as a person, and he says, "Your faith is great. I know your heart, and it's awesome." I'm telling you, if you're willing to go through the journey of nuancing with other people, you may discover, no matter what they voted, what their opinion is, no matter what their sexuality is, no matter how they voted, pro-life or pro-choice, whatever that is, if you're willing to work through all the nuances of differences about us, you will discover a human heart. Or are you just going to label them a nuisance? I can't be bothered with them. So how the heck did we end up with such a great ending? Jesus finds faith where it was unexpected, and the woman finds mercy where it was not promised. You know what I call that? A surprisingly good meal. That's stopping in at a restaurant and all of a sudden eating the food and being surprised. People keep telling me all the time, it's one of the advices I've heard over and over again, "Paul, you got to go to a Buc-ee's. You got to go to a Buc-ee's." I'm like, what? I'm supposed to drive 120 miles out of the way to go to a Buc-ee's, to a gas station? And they're like, you are going to get something that you are not expecting. The best brisket in the land. Brisket at a gas station. Let me just tell you this. When you give mercy where it was not promised, that's a surprising meal. So when you think about your interactions, when you go to work, surprise them with something that tastes good. When you spread out the Thanksgiving dinner or you're going to a Thanksgiving dinner, surprise them with something good. Surprise them with mercy that was not promised. Stop listening to the noise of the agenda of family, politics, religion, whatever it is. Stop responding to the noise. Stop living somebody else's transcript and start following Jesus. as he works through the nuance. Regardless of our differences, Jesus shows us that we can edify one another in just about any relationship. See, understanding the nuance of a person, the subtle differences will help you. The nuance of the relationship may steer you away from subjects. There may be some subjects you're just not I'm not going there. It's like, yeah, I'm really not going to have that conversation about this. Would you like the mashed potatoes? Oh, the pecan pie is going to be fine. Yeah, but I want to talk about Trump. It's like, yeah, can I be honest with you? And I have a friend, a dear, loving friend that is like a brother to me. Okay? He is like, I love his heart. He loves my heart. We would die for each other. We would fight for each other. But when it comes to politics, he's a psycho. Okay? And he's listening right now. Hey, man, I won't say your name, but you know I love you. But so you know what I do during election time in Facebook? I snooze on him for 30 days. It's a nice little feature. I mean, because he'll include me in posts that are opposite of my opinion just to show me I'm wrong. And you say, what a jerk. No. That's his nuance. And I'm okay with that. He votes one way, I vote another way. We have differences of opinion. But when it comes down to heart and soul, I love that guy. And he loves me. And people, if you interact with him, people saw some of his posts and are like, hey, you see what so-and-so said? I said, okay. He's like, are you going to unfollow him? I'm like, no. He's like a brother to me. It's like, well, why? Aren't you upset? No, I know his heart. I know it. And so we may have voted differently, but I still know his heart. You may find that in your role and relationship with the persons around you that the relationship nuance changes. I find it's changed with a lot of you. You hear about Jesus here across town and you're kind of connected to the church and it's a new thing. Then I watch you grow up and I'm kind of like less of Pastor Paul. I'm more kind of like Paul. I'm just like that guy that loves Jesus like I do. The nuance changes. I found this is very true about parenting, that the nuance of the parenting relationship changes. I came up with these before, and this is my list of nuance. Commander, coach, consultant, cheerleader, consoler, chum. And you say, well, what is that? I have found that as a parent, the nuance of my relationship with my child should change. When they are baby to about 12, I am commander. That's it. I'm commander, and that's who I am, and this is the way we do it in this house. Take your dishes to the sink, help your mother, rotate the tires, you paint the house, the typical commander type stuff. And so it's kind of like this is the way it's going to be. But Dad, I understand, but this is the way it's going to be. But then there's a point when they move into teenage years where you switch into coach. You're kind of still in charge of the team, but you're involving them in the calling of the play. Hey, how the field of pressure's going? How do you feel like you think the receivers are getting open? Yeah, okay, well, you think we should run the ball? We're going to go ahead and run the ball more. Okay, great. Hey, I noticed that you were doing this. Well, you need to stop doing that. And there's more of a coaching thing. And then I find that now as my children are married and they're having kids and moving on, I find I'm more in the consultant range. I don't give my opinion. I don't walk into the house and say, why'd you put the couch there? That couch doesn't match a love seat. And it's like, really? That's where you're going to walk into the house? See, most parents fail in their relationships with their children because they don't discover the nuance that changed in the relationship. You're still trying to commander a 28-year-old. It's like you can't do that. You got to operate in a different way. Now you got to, instead of telling them your opinion because you think that's the highest, most noble thing is to give somebody a piece of your mind, that you wait until you're asked. You wait until your daughter has a problem with her boyfriend and the two of you are riding to, Targets together, that she asks you a question. And you say, well, honey, I tell you, I don't know how it is with you, but when I was dating, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden you have this moment. But if you're still operating in commander mode, that's probably not going to work. Well, I'm now kind of like in cheerleader mode. My kids are mid-30s, one just turned 40. I'm a grandparent. So I'm a cheerleader consoler. Like, man, this is going to be awesome. Yeah, you got a lot of kids that need diapers, and yeah, you're going to be good, you know? It's like, yeah, 3 kids that need diapers simultaneously. 2 of them that need to be breastfed every 3 hours for the rest of your life. It's amazing. You're going to be okay. And that's my job as cheerleader. My daughter does not want me to tell her how to breastfeed. You know? And then I'm also chum. I love being the chum. That's when you're just like, your kids could be totally screwed up. Your kids could be doing something that you don't even agree with. Hey, you want to go fishing today? Yeah, let's do that. Hey, I'm about to go to Lowe's, and I'm about to buy some really obnoxious inflatable to put in my backyard to tick off my neighbor. Hey, you want to go to Lowe's with me? I'll buy you something for your house. You can pick anything out that you want. Man, I'll tell you what, that fills the car up real fast. And all of a sudden, I'm driving down the road with grandkids and daughter and son-in-law, and we're going to pick things out. It's like, why? Because I'm not trying to be your commander anymore. I'm just your chum now. So let me ask you this. Do you feel like you need to politic for your political party? Do you feel that's your job this Thanksgiving? Is to represent the ideology of your political party? I mean, is it possible that you're just supposed to be a chum? It's only going to last for about 3 hours. It's only mac and cheese. You know, I mean, it's like, and you're going to try to like, well, I'll tell you what, if so-and-so does this, I'm going to send him to the door. It's like, chill out and just, you know, if they ask you your opinion, be a consultant. If they don't ask you your opinion, just pass the mashed potatoes. Be a chum. Watch the football game. And there may be somebody that will try to be like, hey, what do you think about Elon Musk? You know, it's like, you may say, hey, listen, you know what? There's a lot of things you can learn about Elon and all this other stuff, but hey, how about that turkey? Is that turkey good or what? You know, how about, hey, did you know Jimmy's playing baseball now? Yeah, it's going. And you can steer the conversations away from the negative nuances. I think this is amazing that it all came from racist, misogynist, chauvinist. Jesus came up with all of this. Today's subject was nuance or nuisance. And I was joking about that last part. Okay, I need everybody to know that I was joking about that. Jesus is my nuance. Jesus was willing to walk through the nuance of culture to give somebody something that was unexpected. Are you willing to do this? The disciples were not. All they heard was the sound of a crow. Jesus heard the same sound, and he heard the heart of a woman. We label a person a nuisance instead of walking through them. Is there anybody in your category that you need to shift over? Maybe I was a little quick to think of them as a nuisance. He rejects the idea of calling her a nuisance. He ignores the noise, and he gives her space to reveal herself. That's powerful. Can I just encourage you as we go to communion, ask God to reveal the nuance of someone that you have conflict with. Ask him, why do they wig out every time? Why do they freak out? Why don't they understand? How about just don't say anything? Except for your Heavenly Father. God, I pray that you would help me understand the heart of the person in front of me. That's what's happening in communion. All your nuances, my nuances, Jesus says, come unto me, all you are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I mean, it's like, what? Do I got to get it all fixed? No, you don't got to get it all fixed. Just come to me. And he puts himself out there. He's putting himself out there for us. But I want to ask you one more question, and this one's even more deeply personal. Are you so nuanced that no one can connect with you? I mean, seriously. You're so Republican. You're so Democrat. You're so white. You're so woman. You're so old. You're so young. You're so rich. You're so poor. Whatever it is, white or black, whatever it is, are you so nuanced that nobody can connect with you? I mean, that is possible. It's kind of like, well, in order to join hands with them, you could be the kind of person that's, oh, well, I need to know what they believe about this. I need to know what they do there. And I need to do this. I need to do this. You know, and man, I got to get 5 things right before you'll pass me the mashed potatoes? Maybe, are you too hard? It's like nobody can get along with you because you got too many requirements that people match up with in order for it to happen. It's so easy. You know, I love these people, and it happened in this election, happened the last election. Depending on who, somebody's going to say, if so-and-so gets elected, I am leaving the country. And really, it's happened for every party. Everybody has their celebrities that get on TV and say, I'm leaving the country. You know what that is? That is somebody that is not willing to work through the nuance of life. But it may be you know? And I've had to work in that in my life. What does it take to please Paul Rienzo? What does it take for me to smile at you? What does it take? How many things do you got to get right before you're safe with me? And with Jesus, he could walk into the middle of all this ideological difference between him and this woman, and she walks away with mercy that was never promised. I want to be that kind of person. Father, as we come into this moment of communion with you, once again, you are offering us mercy where it wasn't promised. God, very few of us here are of the ethnicity of Abraham. Most of us here are more like the woman from Tyre and Sidon. We have more in common with the Syrophoenician woman than we do with Abraham or David. But today, you stretch out your compassion to every single one of us, even when it wasn't promised. So, Father, we receive this gift from you, not only for ourselves, but to give this gift to those around us.